Hello, I'm Rob Jones, and joining me is David Glennon, Digital Delivery Director for the Red Sea Development Company. David is one of our shortlisted candidates for the Construction Technology Leader category of the 2021 Construction Technology Awards. The awards celebrate new approaches and best-in-class use of technology within the built environment. In this category, we've shortlisted the leaders who have successfully led the planning, adoption, or use of digital technology in the built environment. The winner will be announced on the 2nd of June during the Construction Technology Festival in Dubai. Now, David, the interviews with those shortlisted for Construction Technology Leader so far have focused more on the person rather than their company or their major projects. But you're playing a significant role in such a major project. I think it would be remiss not to ask about it. The Red Sea project is overtly driving the use of digital technologies during the construction process. Why was this decision taken, and what benefits is it bringing you?
I've got sort of two main focuses. One is to create the digital twin, and that's part of the delivery for our smart destination, which will really focus on customer experience for the guests that come here. And the second piece is around really focused on the project delivery itself. So anything that we can do to improve, or reduce the risk of not hitting the timelines, improve the quality of our product when it gets to site. Anything we can do in this space, is what we're driving to do. And then as well as that, as part of Vision 2030 and our objectives that we're trying to achieve there, we're also aiming to leave like a digital legacy within the public investment funds and for KSA, as well as provide new skills and opportunities within the kingdom. But the project itself, we've got the end of phase one, end of 2022. That's when we'll be expecting to bring our first guests in. We've got an absolutely fantastic airport under construction at the moment. We've got a couple of inland sites, Southern Dunes and Desert Rock, which are these absolutely stunning hotels inland. But there's a lot of focus on the overwater assets. So we're developing a number of islands out in the Red Sea, and with a lot of different types of assets there. They're all sort of like hyper luxury. But the important bit is its setting. So if you get the opportunity to go down there, and I do when I go visit site, it's absolutely stunning. The environment's stunning, lots of wildlife, absolutely fantastic blue waters. So I think one of the other major things that we're trying to do within digital delivery is to ensure that we enable our teams to not damage that environment through the construction process.
Now, I've interviewed John Pagano, your CEO, and when I did, he very much focused on the sustainability aspects of the development once it's operational. Are you also using technology to try and push this to really note that aspect as well during the construction phase?
Yeah, so there's a couple of areas where we're really focusing in on that. So one, I work very closely with the environmental team here. So anything that we can do to help them, collect data, make better decisions, and to make those decisions in real time to make sure that we have an impact on our works. I work very closely with them using GIS technologies and data capture. So that's one area. But the other one is probably a little bit sort of like tangential, and that is where we are working with our design teams and our construction teams to really enable different ways of designing and constructing. So one of our big focuses is offsite manufacturing. So anything that we can do there to improve that process and to make it easier for work to happen away from the project itself, we do that. We're doing that through using design for manufacturing assembly techniques, but it's also so some of it can be quite simple. So it's working with our design teams and looking for ways to, reduce waste, especially in that manufacturing or construction process. So it's not really a digital technique per se, but it's working with the teams around us to help drive that as an outcome.
And you're using so many technologies, and they're covering both the capital and the operational phases. And I know you're focused really on the capital, but when you're looking at these technologies, when you're piloting them, the digital technologies, are there particular benefits you're looking for that make you think, okay, that's a green light, we'll go for that?
Yeah, so I think the approach that we've taken with what we're doing with technology certainly helps towards that. So we're using a lean startup technique. So rather than making a big bet on one technology and then trying to drive that home and sort of like hoping that we're going to get the outcomes that we want. We sort of break that down into smaller chunks. So we're often using something called like a minimum viable product. So we'll test it, see whether it's working, get feedback from all the stakeholders. And then once we feel that we're heading in the right direction, then that's when we'll scale it. And we've been very successful with that. If you look at our design collaboration platform or our BIM platform, by taking that approach, we've been able to scale that very quickly. So we're now working in a model first environment. So if you're to walk around the office here, you'll see on the screens on the walls, people are walking through the models. That's how they're communicating with their supply chain. It's no longer paper or certainly not paper, but no longer a flat drawing. It's very much model based. And it's by taking those steps that we're able to sort of help with the change management process to bring people on board, but also we're able to test that we're going to get the outputs that we're expecting as we go through that. And it is interesting what you mentioned there about getting ready for handover and OPEX. So we're still building towards that, but we're ensuring that we're using, best practice techniques. So we're, if you get really granular, even our data classifications are all based off international standards. So we might not know what the end answer is. What we're building at the moment is flexible enough and agile enough that we're able to bolt bits on, and it'll be the same then when we get to handover. Whatever the end solution is going to look like, we know that we're going to be ready to integrate with that.
Now, one of the technologies I know you're planning to use is digital twin. And I think that's quite interesting because we hear a lot about digital twin at the moment, about the benefits of digital twins. We don't see an awful lot right now in the Middle East in terms of actual use, but there are some examples beginning to come, and interestingly, actually, in Saudi Arabia as well. You're obviously, again, you're not there yet in terms of you're still building, but for you, what are you planning with the digital twin? How do you see it helping you?
You're right. This is an emerging field, and I think it's quite an interesting time to be looking at it, and especially in this region on a project such as this. There's big convergence at the moment of BIM technologies and other technologies and sensors and networks, and what things will look like from an operational perspective. So there's huge convergence there. From a Red Sea development company perspective, we've for the smart destination that we're creating is very similar to, say, like a smart city, and it's going to be very much focused on how can we improve the customer experience of the guests that are coming to stay in the resorts. So by having that as context, it then makes it easier to understand what we need to be focusing on now. At the moment, where we're going through design and now into construction, we have lined up the various technologies. So obviously BIM is a key part of that. We've got our GIS, which then sort of lets us know where it's going to sit on the world. And we've got a number of proof of concepts at the moment where we've got sensors out on site, and we're starting to pull that data back in to understand, how that interacts. So we're in that proof of concept stage at the moment. The smart destination team, they're currently working on what that fuller smart destination strategy looks like. And the digital twin is one stream of that. So as I say, we're working on our sort of stream of delivering that. And we're now starting to see how that's going to hook into some of the other streams that sit within smart destination, which could be around mobility, how people are going to get around the resorts, how can they interact with the environment that's around them, how can they book their experiences, all that great stuff. But I do see, we certainly see the digital twin as being a cornerstone of delivering that.
And of course, with so much about sustainability being so central to the whole project, it will also enable that monitoring in terms of that side as well, which is great. So technology is completely central to this project, I think, in terms of making sure that it's being used to enhance delivery and later on experiences. Have you had any sort of pushback from the people who are working on this? How do you convince them that this is the right approach, to go on this journey?
Yeah, so it's there's a few factors at play here. I think one of them is if you look at the ambition to deliver one of these projects, we've got a natural burning platform. It's going to be very hard to deliver these projects in time and to the quality that's required if we use traditional methods. So everyone knows that. So there's a burning platform. Everyone knows that there's going to be a need to change. If we couple that then with the great leadership that we have, so you mentioned John Pagano, he's our CEO. He passionately believes that technology and digital ways of working are going to be the future. So it's being driven at a high level. As I said, it's something. It's an objective that aligns with what we're trying to do as part of Vision 2030. But if you come down a layer, so the Chief Project Delivery Officer, Ian Williamson, and that's who I report into, he's also the same, and he's got great experience of using these techniques and tools and technologies on previous projects. So, and he's relentless in driving us to use it. So we've got that burning platform bottom up, and we've got that that leadership top down. So I think once you've got both of those, it's attacking that middle layer, and that's when it starts to become more challenging. Again, very lucky with the leadership as it goes down through the organisation. But as I say, if I bring us back to that lean startup technique that we're using, we're not delivering one whole tool at one time and saying you must change everything that you do, change your processes. We've put those platforms in place, and bit by bit, we're able to bring new functionality or new improvements to ways of working. So it's just much easier for people to pick up. But I guess the really interesting bit is the impact that it's got on the supply chain, and certainly the consultants and the contractors that we're working with, because that's really where this will become a success or not. And it's just been really interesting working with some of the best firms internationally and locally. The feedback that we're getting from the use of our platforms is that it's well organized, it's easy to use, and we've sort of aligned it to their processes as well. So we're also bringing some improvements to how they work. And by working in that way and being quite collaborative in our approach with them and the technology vendors, is they're now coming to the table with innovation as well. And it's innovation that sometimes it will be it's of benefit to them, and sometimes it will be of benefit to us. So it's starting to bring a lot of the people here, it's bringing them closer to their supply chain and starting to talk about how digital can really improve the project that we're trying to deliver.
Okay, let's go for a slight change of pace now. When you started your career, did you have a focus on technology, or was it something that grew over time?
So I started my career as a construction manager. So I spent a number of years out on site, measuring steel and ensuring concrete was procured and all that exciting stuff. So I spent a number of years doing that. You could sort of see as a young construction manager that things weren't going as well as perhaps they could be. There was definitely some productivity challenges in there, and there's some huge efficiencies to be had. I was lucky. I was given an opportunity to work on a change program, an organisational change program, and I was around knowledge management. That went really well, and then I've started to pick up more and more change programs. A lot of those were based around technology. So to be honest, the technology wasn't a conscious choice. It sort of happens, but it was the passion to improve what I was seeing happening out on site, improve the work between the different parties, that the collaboration, that's what really drove it. And then when I could see what technology could bring, then I did start to really enjoy it. I'm very lucky. I've got to work with some great leaders over the years, and a couple of those were from the technology space, and it was really interesting how they sort of respected that I had some industry knowledge but didn't have the technology knowledge, and they sort of like helped me gain some of that, but then still allowed me not to be a technologist. So I think having that experience over the course of 10 years has sort of really allowed me to find this space that I really enjoy being in.
Okay, and then what sort of skills do you think you've picked up that have become most important to you, so that you've reached this point in your career?
It's an interesting question. And it's interesting because it's if you look at the teams that I've built over the years, I've attacked it in the same way, and it's to be quite T-shaped. So if you're to look at the digital team that I have here, everyone can can run the basics of running a BIM project or a GIS project. But each one has a speciality. So it might be computational design, it might be asset management or standards or classification, and bringing all of that together. And that's where some of the challenges in leadership comes. But for me personally, I try and be T-shaped, so I know enough about everything at a high level where I can have the conversation. I can start to see where some of the challenges, where some of the issues are going to come from. But I might not necessarily know all that detail, and I'm comfortable not to know all the detail of everything, because I'm generally surrounded by people who are excellent at doing that job. So it's probably, if to look at my T-shape, it would be that sort of collaboration piece. So it's sort of been able to use my experience of the years to know where the risks are and what the issues are and what good practice looks like. But been able to pull different people together in order to find, the right path or the right solution to solve a problem.
And then conversely, I suppose, what do you think people who work for you have learned from you?
That we don't have to know all the answers in order to make a first step. So I've seen in so many organizations or projects where everyone's trying to work out the full answer before making a decision and making a step. I think if you can rely on experience, if you can rely on, say, things like standards, you've generally got enough information to know that your head is in the right direction, but you need to keep your eye on the direction that you're going in to make sure that you end up where you want to get to. So I suppose it's just having that confidence that you're doing the right thing and you're following, good practice and all the rest of it. It's important to move forward rather than feel paralyzed and wait till you've got the right answer. Because if you do that and make too big a bet and try and go too large, in 2 years' time, with the rate technology changes, you've probably missed it, or you've missed a key trend. So I think, so I suppose the importance is to continue to be agile.
So that kind of idea of having a stake in the ground, even if it's not, the end point, but at least this is what we're aiming for right now, and if it changes, it changes.
And I think you raise a good point there, and often it's around being able to communicate that. So when you're trying to bring people on a change journey, if you can tell people this is the direction that we're headed in, people can start moving towards it, and then you can form the program around that.
So final question. How have you seen attitudes towards construction technology change during your time? You said you started, in the industry, not in technology. So you must have seen that kind of gradual embrace of people going from maybe being fearful or suspicious through to starting to really see what benefits it can bring.
So I suppose in the industry we've seen consolidation now for the last decade or so, and you can start to see new entrants coming into the market, and there may not be someone from especially in the consultancy world, it could be someone with the technology backgrounds that's coming in to take some of the market. So I suppose that the bit that I've seen change is 15 years ago I was in front of the CEO and I'd spent months pulling together an ROI to explain exactly when the benefits are going to be and when payback will be. I think certainly 5 years ago is when I started to see the shift, where it's less about, okay, well, if I spend this, when will I get this back? It's, okay, we're now in thrive or survive. We need to make a move. We need to make a big bet, and it's going to be in the digital space. And so I think there's just an acceptance that it's not going to go away. And if you don't embrace it, you may not be around in a few years. But if you do embrace it, there's a massive prize out there. So I suppose that's probably one of the biggest shifts. And you're also seeing, a lot of leadership are now younger, and they're sort of, and maybe not just because they're younger, but they've sort of grown up in that more digital way. They're used to using this technology at home. It's how they get to work, it's how they book a flight, it's how they choose what they're going to watch on TV that day. So it's just become a lot more accepted that it's here to stay.
David, thank you for your time and good luck with your shortlist for the Construction Technology Leader Award.
Thank you very much.